Here. Want to talk to you about a new game that came out a couple weeks ago called Windjammers 2. Windjammers 2 is a sequel to a Neogeo game that I remember coming out, I think, in the mid to later 90s, maybe. I recall the time that I walked in the only video game store that had a Neogeo in my local area, and the clerk there says to me, David, you got to see this. This new game, man, I got for Neogeo that came in. And he takes me over to the Neogeo, and he proceeds to show me this game. And at first I'm watching this thing, and this thing was the original Windjammers on Neogeo. And I'm looking at it thinking to myself, what am I seeing here? It sort of looks like air hockey, but it's not, because actually that's a frisbee that they're throwing back and forth. And is this like, pong, or is it like volleyball? I don't know. It was kind of fascinating. But the more that I watched it and the more that I looked at it, I thought, this is really, really cool. And I thought, this is something that is definitely different than other games that I'd seen like this. Well, after playing a few games of this, I said, wow, that's really cool. But you got to remember, back in those days, nobody really had a Neogeo at home, and we didn't really have emulation as prevalent as it is now. And those days, we didn't, really, if you didn't have a Neogeo, there really was no way to play it. I remember it, and, then when I heard that there was a sequel coming to the original Windjammers, I thought to myself, a sequel to the original Windjammers? Who would be brave enough to even consider such a thing? Well, .emu is brave enough, and yes, they have considered such a thing. So, the developer, who is based in Paris, France, on January 20th, 2022, released Windjammers for Steam, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox and PC Game Pass day one. If you have to buy it, it costs about $20. It's a really, really interesting thing. So what is Windjammers 2? Well, Windjammers 2 is the legendary, disc throwing game that has been updated, and they have tried to capture everything that made Windjammers in the original really, really good, and infuse that into what they are presenting in this remake. The remake includes, gorgeous, hand-drawn 2D animations. It has brand new characters, brand new stages, brand new boards. It has an enhanced online multiplayer game modes, 2 unlockable mini games. I think one of them is called Hot Dog Distance, and I think the other one's Disc Attack, maybe. It also has local player versus player and a new arcade mode. Now, here's the thing, okay? Playing Windjammers can be quite addictive. I found it to be a kind of a game that is a game that you could pick up like a Columns or a Tetris or even a Puyo Puyo Tetris. But the point is, it's I would term it as more of a casual game, and but it can be very competitive and very intense. The remake, it just looks gorgeous, as you can see. This is playing on my Xbox Series X, and it's being captured in 1080p, 60 frames a second, and it just looks lovely. It plays well, both online and locally. Haven't had any issues with it. The additional characters, which expands the library from 6 to the new 12 now, and I really think that that's pretty cool. I like the new characters. I like the fact that they all have new moves and things. and that they, have strengths and weaknesses, a little faster, a little slower. So you can find a character that can help you dial in to get the game under control. But let's talk a little bit more about the history. So after Dotemu wanted to make this game, they had to track down who actually owned the rights to the original Windjammers, because Data East went bust some time ago. And evidently they found out that a company did actually own the rights, and they made contact with the company and made a proposal of what they wanted to do, and luckily they said yes. Now there was a physical release for this for PlayStation and Switch, I believe, through Limited Run, but once again Xbox got left out, so there is no physical release for Xbox. So at least you can get it from Game Pass. If you're a physical fanatic like me, I'm still disappointed that there wasn't a physical release, but I hear talk that something it may be in the works so that physical releases of smaller runs of games are going to be possible. Don't know any more about that yet, but I believe Limited Run had a post on Twitter sort of implying that Xbox games could be in the offing. As far as the game goes and the gameplay, I found the gameplay to be quite good. I like the new smash volley mechanic. It takes some practice to get good with it. But once you do get this new mechanic and get control of it, it can be a very effective weapon against your opponent. I found the online play to be very good. I played numerous online games. I really never had any issues as far as the quality of the games and the quality of my connection. So I would just say your mileage may vary. As far as how many people were playing, over the course of the 2 weeks while I've been playing it on and off, I've never seen more than 400 or 500 people. I've seen as little as a couple of hundred. But I never really had a problem finding a game online when I wanted to play. And honestly, to me, that's the most important, not really the player count. As far as the game itself goes, is it a good game? Yes, I do think it's fantastic. It is definitely not for everybody, though. But I will say that I find it both fun to watch and fun to participate in. And it can get very intense. But the graphics are smooth, the frame rate is good, the gameplay is very, very much what I remember from the, as far as the intensity goes, from the original Windjammers. And honestly, I would highly recommend it as a great addition to your Xbox library. I really think it's a bummer, however, that we didn't get a physical release for Xbox. Maybe someday that'll get remedied. But at any rate, this is Marlbs. Go get you some Windjammers. I think you might like it. We'll see you next time. Bye now.